Welcome back to Barbells and Banter. Today we will go over the second portion of our interview with Brian Wallack and discuss protein windows and creatine in depth.
In this episode, we will dive deeper into training and performance for athletics.
Stay tuned until the end where Brian reveals his top 5 sports that he's going to enroll his kids into.
That's funny. He's got a long beard.
Yeah. I'm not cutting that out. Do you adjust your training style based on your season or a phase in your diet? So you're trying to gain weight, you're trying to lose weight. Does your training get adjusted from that?
Yeah, of course. Like in order to optimize it, you have to adjust it. So I think about like my college basketball years, I would I think the biggest thing I would do is obviously shape when I ingested carbohydrates around my workouts. Because I really liked staying really lean because that was just a quality that I like to do. Like I could have looked like Luka Doncic if I wanted to, but
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't I didn't want to do that. Yeah, you caught it straight. I'm sorry. Um, so what I would basically do is like if I had a morning practice, I would have a lot of carbs right before that practice. I would have a little bit of carbs after, but the rest of the day, unless I had like weight training in the afternoon, I wouldn't really eat much carbs. I would just have protein.
Okay. And this is
I
if you're
didn't,
trying to lose weight.
no, this was just maintaining.
Oh, okay.
So like I just stick to the rule of like the protein every 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's, like the basis of my diet. And then the carbohydrates were just shaped around a workout. Right now I'm bulking, so obviously every single meal has to be a lot more calorie dense.
Yeah.
Um, but that's because I'm not playing basketball right now. Like I don't recommend doing really bulking for if you're a basketball player, unless you're like some paint beast that wants to get every single rebound. Just
Do
doesn't.
you think, sorry, do you think protein every 3 hours as that zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.3 grams per kilo matters more than through like your total at the end of the day?
I think so.
Okay.
Uh, Imagine you have that 100 grams in the morning, and then I have like 40 grams in the afternoon, and then 40
Yeah.
grams before I go to sleep. The spacing of those protein cycles, there's this one study that showed like, I'm trying to remember the graphs, but it was like four different, what's that noise? Four different times that are protein meals throughout the day compared to like 8 times throughout the day. But they
Yeah.
were just, and the 8 times created more muscle building after like 8 weeks. So spacing out smaller meals seems to be the most beneficial way to go about doing it.
19. 19. Okay. Yeah.
What's what's a mistake that most people make when they try to gain muscle?
Uh, First one that comes to mind is that they just eat without understanding the macros behind it. Super simple, but it's a common thing that happens a bunch is that you think like, oh, if I want to put on muscle, I just need to eat more. But it's understanding exactly what's within those foods and the macronutrients associated with it, which is protein. Like if I was younger and I was like and didn't understand this stuff, I was like, oh, I want to put on a lot of muscle, but I go to McDonald's every day and eat like 3 Big Macs. It's not going to be the same as eating like some chicken and broccoli, right?
Okay. Do you think that having a substantial amount of muscle mass can affect how long you live?
Yeah, like obviously more muscle mass means more stress on the cardiovascular system because you have to pump more blood to extra muscle that your body might not necessarily need to
Yeah.
be optimal, right?
So there is a point where
Yeah,
if you're too little, it's not good either. But then once
yeah,
you
happy medium to it. Obviously, like everybody wants to get to a point where they have like I assume a good percentage of people want to get to a point where they have a lot of muscle mass, but I imagine once you get older, muscle mass is still really important because that's a really big predictor of life expectancy. But you're also looking at general population people. So like if I have more muscle mass at 60 years old compared to the average 6 year old, I'll more likely live longer, not because I have more muscle mass, but because I'm more fit than that other individual. And
Okay.
just because I'm more fit, I have more muscle. So it's not like, oh, I'm a bodybuilder at 60, I'm going to live longer than you. It's because just the muscle in general came from a lot of factors before that, which is like I'm just more fit. I go for runs. I do more active, I have a more active lifestyle than the average 6 year old.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of runs, cardio, do you think it affects your how much muscle you can gain in a period of time?
Well, you look at long, it depends like what's your volume of running, right? You look at long distance runners, cross country runners, they're not the people that have a lot of muscle mass on them.
Yeah,
It's because obviously you do those long distance running,
slows you
you're
down.
gonna need a lot more calories. And especially too if you're not eating properly and having a good amount of different macronutrients, there's this one process where your body starts breaking down protein for energy sources. So basically you run out of your carbohydrates, which is your first energy source you use, and then you start breaking down. But if you don't have a lot of fat on your system, like for instance, if you're 8% body fat, your body's going to adapt and basically start breaking down proteins and turning those into ATP like energy sources to then
Yeah,
use exercise as a survival mechanism. So
yeah. Do
running
you
in general, like if you're just doing it to stay active, it's not going to break down your muscle like crazy. But if you're doing it excessively, like yes, it will.
do you run?
No, yeah, I just don't enjoy running. Like you
Yeah,
think there's a common name for like sports that are just continuous cardio, like swimming and cycling and running. They're called punishment sports because you think about like in a sport like volleyball, basketball, baseball, like soccer,
for the goal.
you run as a punishment in those sports. So I just personally I've always been within team sports because like I just enjoy the goal more of that. You have to have a very solid mindset to be within a um, continuous sport like swimming or running where there's not a lot of change in action, I guess.
Yeah. Does playing many sports or exposing yourself to a lot of different activities, even like swimming, climbing, running, baseball, basketball, all of those, what at a young age, improve or increase your athleticism when as you're older?
100%.
Does
There's
a
something,
variety help?
what's that?
Is it the variety?
Yeah, yeah. Like like one thing I always think about is like if I ever ki have kids, the five sports that I want to put them in is soccer. Soccer's super important for footwork and just overall athleticism.
Yeah,
Gymnastics, just for like body control. Um, Track and field, because you need to trigger those the nervous system to be firing faster, like if you want a more athletic kid. And then obviously like basketball and then like a baseball as well, just for reaction. So like um and the reason I say like all that is because the variety of sports, like when you're younger, your body as a kid, your brain is so adaptable to the stimuluses that you provide to it.
yeah.
And if you can expose a kid's brain to so many different things, like they're just going to pick it up like that. So and then there's this idea of movement literacy, which is basically your body's ability to move in more than one way. And if you expose them to a lot of different sports, your movement literacy goes up, and that actually improves your ability in one sport. You think about all these NBA players that have incredible footwork. Obviously, it's because they played a lot of basketball, but a lot of their backgrounds originated from playing soccer, where you need exceptional footwork to perform.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic, for instance, he was a soccer player when he was younger. So,
Uh,
So,
that makes sense.
how
so
does high intensity interval training compare to steady state cardio?
Because we talk, and does that tie into sprinting at all as well? Because sprinting, like when you're using your anaerobic um pathway, I guess, instead of aerobic training, that can be beneficial for sport and for vert too. Like there's a lot of transfer into athleticism.
Yeah, yeah, like obviously you're using different energy systems for the both. Um, they burn different sources. So
Yeah.
like if um intermittent, for instance, like you're burning your fast energy source a lot quicker with continuous like running or endurance cardio. Like you're if you're within like that steady state, you're burning more fat sources. I used to know so much about this stuff, but because I just don't put a lot of interest in it
Yeah.
now, lost a lot of my knowledge in that space.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
there are huge benefits of doing both. Like you think about any intermittent sport like basketball, soccer, um, rugby, like those ones require basically it's basically hit cardio out there, where it's
Yeah.
like you're resting for a couple of seconds, then you're doing explosive action, resting for more seconds doing explosive action. So if you're able to do that like outside of your sport in order to increase your ability, like I see no reason not to.
Um, sprinting, muscle cardio. Let's go back to social media. How did you start your social media at all? Like from basically nothing, right? You weren't posting anything before. You started
Yeah,
like a year
it
ago.
started like I talked about that Paul Favorites PGF guy, that's the
Yeah.
NBA illustrator, and he kind of inspired me to start making videos. I just realized, like I said before, you need a brand in order to promote yourself. So I started making Instagram reel videos on this account called Be Well Workouts. And basically I was just sharing, I pictured it as like my online resume in terms of proving that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
'Cause I've read all these textbooks. And what I would do is just follow a bunch of like basketball kids. I would go on like the Drive club Instagram page and just start spamming following all these kids and hoping. And I made like over 130 different videos on that page. They didn't get a lot of views, but I really was just doing it for myself to prove that I like obviously knew what I was talking about, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to put myself out there more. And then that ended summer of 2023 because then I started making videos on TikTok and I had a little bit of success with it because I made a pretty big uh like just body and athletic transformation from high school to fifth year university. So I started posting those types of things, and obviously people were inspired by it, and it got a lot of traction. And then I just kind of ran with that.
Yeah.
So now I'm at a point where I have a huge following, and it can help me create whatever I want to do later on. So
Brian's account. We gotta clip that later. Um, yeah, so you started about a year ago on TikTok. First it was the B-Wall workouts, and then you went to TikTok, and now you're on Instagram and TikTok working with brands. How did you start? How did you get your first brand deal?
it's all about connections. So people, once you guys get a little bit older, you'll realize it. I didn't realize it till probably 6 year university, but the way you kind of get anywhere in life is through other people and just being a good person. So um, it was last summer, like I started building this TikTok following, and Guru Energy Drink was a sponsor for the CBL team, the Bandits that I was playing for that summer.
Yeah.
And I was really good friends with a lot of the contacts there, and they just gave me a shot, and they were like, "Oh, we'll give you like it was like $500 for a couple posts a month." And I was like, $500 to just make a video? Like that's insane. And I signed like a couple month contract with them, and then I just realized like obviously there's room for growth in this space. I could be doing this with other brands and tried to learn from as many people as possible in terms of how to go about doing it and talk to different like social media agencies. I never like took on a social media agent full time. I only like asked them for advice. And now I'm in a position where like some pretty big time brands reaching out to me. Like I just a couple months ago I finished like an Uber campaign and I like work with Samsung and stuff. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. But the thing is with those things, they're not long-term stuff. It's like you're using your brand to promote a product of another brand. Obviously, ideally, you want to get to the point where you have your own products or services that you can promote.
Let's dive into lifter lingo. Today, we're diving into one of the most fundamental concepts in bodybuilding and strength training, progressive overload.
Ah, yes, progressive overload. It sounds like something you need a degree to understand. But let's break it down. What does it actually mean?
It's simpler than it sounds. Progressive overload is the principle of gradually increasing the stress you place on your muscles during training.
And that stress is what causes your muscles to grow, right?
Exactly. When you challenge your muscles with more than they're used to, whether that's by adding weight, doing more reps, or increasing your intensity, they adapt by getting stronger and bigger.
So, is this why people always say, don't just lift the same weight forever?
100%. If you're benching 135 pounds every session for months without pushing for more, your muscles have no reason to grow. It's like saying, hey, I've already mastered this level, give me something harder.
Got it. So, how can someone apply progressive overload in their routine without overdoing it?
Great question. It doesn't mean piling on 20 pounds every week. Start small. Add 5 pounds to your lifts. Or aim for 1 or 2 more reps than last time. You can even decrease rest time between sets to make the workout more intense.
That's a good point. But what about beginners? Should they worry about progressive overload right away?
For sure, but they should prioritize good form, and then once the basics are solid, they can start applying progressive overload through weight, reps, and sets. It's all about building a strong foundation before stacking on the weight.
And what about plateaus? You know, like when you stop making progress even though you're trying to overload?
Oh, the dreaded plateau. It happens to everyone. When you hit one, try switching up your training method. Use drop sets, supersets, or change your rep range. Those are intensity techniques, and even slight variations can reignite progress.
Alright, makes sense. So progressive overload is like constantly nudging your body to grow, but in a smart and sustainable way?
Exactly. It's not about lifting recklessly, it's about being intentional. Progress takes time, but small, consistent efforts lead to big results.
Love that. Alright, listeners, if you're stuck or feel like your gains have stalled, take a closer look at your training. Are you challenging yourself enough?
And remember, progressive overload isn't just about the weights, it's about progression in any form. Stay patient, stay consistent, and the results will follow.
Introducing our new segment, Barbell Buzz, where we will cover a bodybuilding current event. So, the 2025 Arnold Classic is just around the corner. Are you as hyped as I am?
Absolutely. The Arnold Classic always brings a stacked lineup of competitors, and this year's edition, running from February 27th to March 2nd, looks like it's going to be another incredible event.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest bodybuilding events on the calendar. You've got the best athletes from around the world all competing for that prestigious title. And let's be honest, winning the Arnold is almost as big as winning Mr. Olympia these days.
Totally. It's not just the prize money, but the recognition that comes with it. The story behind this event is amazing, with legends like Jay, Ronnie Coleman, Dexter, having competed before. You've got to be at the top of your game to even place here.
Exactly. And this year, we've got some heavy hitters returning. I've heard that William Bonac is coming back to try to reclaim the title. He's won it twice before, and I think he's got a real shot at making it 3.
Bonac is a beast, no doubt, but I'm also excited to see Samson. He's been on an incredible upward trajectory, and a lot of people are expecting him to be a serious contender.
I agree. Dada's conditioning and muscle density are insane. If he nails his prep and comes in sharp, he could absolutely take the top spot.
Let's not forget Andrew Jacked. He's another guy who's been making waves. He's got that perfect combination of size and symmetry that judges love, and he's even got the last name to match it.
Yeah, and with the Arnold Classic's judging criteria, it's all about the balance. It's not just about being the biggest guy on stage. You've got to have the aesthetics, the conditioning, and the stage presence to win over those judges.
Absolutely. Plus, the crowd at the Arnold is always electric, and that energy can really fuel the competitors. It's not just bodybuilding either. You've got strongman, powerlifting, and so many other sports happening at the same time, which makes the whole festival feel like a celebration of strength and fitness.
And let's not forget about the expo. It's a huge part of the weekend. So many brands, new products, and tons of meet and greets with athletes. If you're a fitness fan, there's no better place to be.
For sure. It's going to be an epic weekend. I can't wait to see who takes home the title and how the competition plays out.
Same here. February can't come soon enough. The 2025 Arnold Classic is going to be one for the books.
That wraps up episode 2 of season 1 on Barbells and Banter. Thank you for listening.
Don't forget to stay tuned to the Arnold Classic and take a second to look at our segment on progressive overload. Thank you.